Welcome back to another episode of The Lost Codex, a channel dedicated to the people, places, and histories of Azeroth's universe. In the previous chapters, we explored the War of the Old Gods, the rise of the Titanforge servants, and the seeding of life across Azeroth. Today we continue with a new chapter. For ages, as time went on, life continued to evolve and change across Kalimdor. The latent energies of the Well of Eternity influenced the evolution of many creatures, giving rise to some of Azeroth's first primitive inhabitants. The first of these naturally evolved species were the Trolls, a race of primitive creatures that dwelled in the dense woodlands and Amazons of Kalimdor. Standing over 6 feet in height, Trolls possessed a unique physiology that gave them an evolutionary advantage over other evolving races. Their long-limbed forms made them incredibly agile and strong, while the regenerative properties of their blood allowed them to mend broken bones, heal lost flesh, and even regrow severed limbs. As Trolls evolved, so too did their tribal society, each developing their own unique customs and practices. Although every tribe was different, the one underlying belief they all practiced was the devotion to the wild gods of Kalimdor. The Trolls called them Loa, and worshipped them as divine beings. While many troll tribes clashed and battled over the ages, one particular group kept to themselves. Settled in a vast network of underground tunnels beneath Hyjal lived a group of trolls known as Dark Trolls. Dark Trolls lived their lives separated from the majority of troll culture, preferring to live in harmony with the land and nature, as opposed to warring and clashing with rival tribes. Unlike their kin, the Dark Trolls avoided daylight entirely, emerging from their subterranean homes only when the sun had set and the stars shone above Kalimdor. In time, the Dark Trolls would descend from the caverns beneath Hyjal and set to exploring the groves of life surrounding a vast glowing lake in the center of Kalimdor. Here they encountered many of the creatures that dwelled near the waters, and eventually set their eyes upon the glowing surface of the Well of Eternity. The Dark Trolls would settle their society on the shores of the lake, and as time passed, the water's powerful energies would infuse with the flesh, bones, and features of the trolls, and change their savage, primitive forms into graceful, beautiful creatures. These new creatures would cast off their old traditions and beliefs, and over time, come to worship a deity named Elune, the moon goddess, whom they believed slumbered within the watery depths of the lake during the day, and rose to the night sky when the sun set. These evolved Dark Trolls would come to learn the language of the Titanforged, and would eventually call themselves Kaldorei, which translates as Night Elves. As the Night Elves evolved their society on the shores of the well, news of them reached the forests of Hyjal where the wild gods dwelled. Cenarius the demigod took a particular interest in their development. Emerging from the groves surrounding the lake, the demigod befriended the Kaldorei and sought to teaching them about the natural connections of Azeroth. For a time, the elves lived in harmony with the inhabitants of the woodlands, all while building their society around the massive lake at the heart of Kalimdor. Soon, they built a wondrous city on the well's shores and named it Wondrous, or the Eye of Elune. But the longer the Kaldorei lived on the shores of the well, the more curious they became about the powers that dwelled within the waters. Many Night Elves devoted their life to studying the arcane powers within the glowing font. Kaldorei sorcerers became prominent within the culture, and as they studied and drew upon the magic of the well, they used its powers to expand on their capital. They constructed vast temples, structures, and highways, and eventually surrounded the entirety of the shimmering, powerful lake. Arcane magic had become intertwined with the very core of Kaldorei culture. Harnessing the energies of the well became their focus, and pushing themselves to discover and harness more became their obsession. As Kaldorei culture expanded its study and practice of the arcane, a new leader came to power. Her name was Queen Azshara, and through her passion and utter devotion to expanding her people's understanding of the arcane, she would pave the way for one of the most devastating events in Azeroth's history. Thank you for joining us for a new chapter on the Lost Codex. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and share. If you have a request for a future topic, please leave a comment. And if you want to see more from the pages of the Lost Codex, hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for the next chapter in Night Elf history.